So many of our politicians and business leaders have been so blind about China. I mean, just last January, a few months ago, former Labor Prime Minister Paul Keating, a long-time member of the International Advisory Board of the dictatorship's China Development Bank, he said claims by Britain's Foreign Minister that China could start a war were nothing short of demented. Well, who's demented now? Last week, US Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan to support this island democracy. She defied threats from China not to go to what it claims is actually Chinese territory. And in revenge, China's Navy has ringed Taiwan with live fire zones for a so-called exercise that almost cut off the island and stopped some international flights. Now, to me, China's reaction tells us everything about that dictatorship's savagery under dictator Xi Jinping. No peaceful country would do that blockade or send jet fighters and bombers over the median line in the 140 kilometres of sea between China and Taiwan's main island. This Taiwanese Defence Force map shows that line where China's planes have crossed it. On Saturday, China sent 20 warplanes. On Sunday, another 66 to scare Taiwan, because Taiwan's Air Force has no way of knowing if the next wave is the one that keeps going and starts bombing. Now, if China was a nation of peace, it would also not now fire ballistic missiles right over Taiwan's capital, Taipei, or send some into the waters of Japan's exclusive economic zone. And all this suggests more than just a tantrum by a dictatorship with the mentality of a playground bully. It suggests a rehearsal for an invasion. And Foreign Minister Penny Wong has now done what I called for on Thursday and backed democracies like the US, Britain, Germany, Italy and France, which last week told China to back off, even though China's ambassador has now blasted Wong for this.
Australia is not the only country that is concerned about escalation. The region is concerned about escalation. The region is concerned about the risk of conflict.
Joining me are Michael Kroger, former Victorian Liberal President, and Steve Conroy, former Labor Senator and Cabinet Minister. Steve Conroy, you've been worried about China for a very long time. How serious is its extraordinary behaviour now?
Well, look, the signs aren't good. China is behaving, as you've said, as a schoolyard bully. It only responds to, its own interests, its own strategies, and its own designs. And you can see from the reaction from around the region, Australia has done the right thing. Penny Wong has done the right thing. Richard Marles done the right thing. The opposition done the right thing. Despite some of the claims and the colourful claims over the years, Australia's foreign policy is pretty much bipartisan all the way down the line. And that's the way it's going to need to be if we're going to be an effective spokes country on behalf of a whole bunch of nations who agree with us but are just a little more vulnerable than Australia is. And as you mentioned, for those business leaders or former politicians who want to get out there and say that China's behaviour is all the fault of somebody else, well, it's getting harder every single day to blame anyone other than Xi, who is on track to become the dictator of China in a few months.
Michael Kroger, your response?
Well, I agree with Stephen completely, and Marles and Wong have done absolutely the right thing. The Chinese behaviour was outrageous, appalling. The only good thing is it teaches young people what communism is all about. This is what a communist government does, and those of us who have been ridiculed over the years for pointing out what communist governments are like, because people say, well, we don't see them much anymore. Well, here's a real live example of a racist, repressive dictatorship now threatening a near neighbour. And you wonder, Andrew, where are all those left-wingers who want to have a BDS campaign against Israel? I'm presuming that sooner or later they'll start a BDS campaign against China, because
Yes.
whatever ills the Israeli government are responsible for, they pale into insignificance in compared to the grotesque behaviour of this communist, repressive, fascist Chinese government, quite frankly, Andrew.
A very good point. There are moves for boycotts of Israel. Meanwhile, we happily sell gas and iron ore stuff that can make the steel for the weapons that China is now aiming at us and the rest of the free world. I mean, it's just, to me, it's quite extraordinary.